What is up, everyone? Welcome to another podcast of The Camper Report. Now, we're going to talk, we got an exciting one. First off, we're going to talk basically all things draft. We're going to talk a little bit about Trent Williams, kind of that whole situation, but it's going to be mainly a draft podcast. Now, if, my technology halfway through becomes shaky, then just bear with me here. My computer is weird as hell. Frankly, I'm going to complain to Microsoft because my Microsoft Surface Pro is kind of pissing me off a little bit. Hold on, let me just make sure everything's working right. The Microsoft Surface Pro definitely making me a little bit mad because I don't even have that much stuff on my computer to make it slow. But I could have started this stream probably 30 minutes ago if my computer kept cutting out. I couldn't even finish my podcast notes. So bear with me here. But yeah, we've got an exciting show for you guys. And let's kick it off. So what are the opinion options in the first round if Trent Williams doesn't come back? The 49ers basically didn't pick up the extra $10 million guaranteed of the Trent Williams contract. Currently, if he were to play this year, he would be owed about $45 million. But none of it's guaranteed from what I can see. And so, yeah, he's a huge number on the cap. That cap number, if they were to give him an extension, will go down 45 million right now. But if they give him an extension or trade him, that cap number obviously will go down. And so they need to make a decision before the start of the new year because they're going to owe him $45 million if they don't extend him. Because if they can extend him, they can move that money off into the future. And so I'm trying to think here. So, yeah, the likelihood of Trent leaving, they have a cap hit of 47 million, like I just said. I'm just looking at my notes here. But here's why the Niners, because if, let's say they were to go the route of trading or cutting Trent Williams, right? Which I've thought about this more. I don't think they cut him. I don't think the Niners have the balls, frankly. And I don't even think they have the balls to draft a tackle that could immediately replace him in round one, and nor should they. Here's the thing. Max Nature, I've heard a lot of people, on his side. Niners should draft this guy at 27. He's a little bit of a developmental project. He played right tackle. He'd have to transition to left tackle. I'm just pulling up his draft profile. I would have had it on my computer, but my computer was so bad I had to close all of its tabs. But let's look up Max Nature's scouting report here. So if they were to draft Max Nature, I love this move. I at first, when I heard of this process, okay, right tackle who doesn't have a lot of experience. He's only been playing football for 4 years because he got recruited from, I believe it was, I can't actually remember his background. Let me look. Born in Nigeria, immigrated to Los Angeles at age 13. He had zero football experience and spent 2 seasons there learning the game from scratch, East Los Angeles College. So he actually essentially started playing football in college. And now I believe he's coming off his 5th year. But the measurables are there with Max Nature. The thing is he ran a 4.91 40. That's the 97th percentile, like insanely fast. He has great arm length. He broad jump, really athletic, like ultra athletic tackle. I think he could easily transition to left tackle from right to left. Great feet. Like I said, great power, really great arms. But I don't think the Niners draft him. And here's the reason why. First off, I think the Eagles at 23 could really like this guy. We know Lane Johnson, right tackle, I believe is going to come back for this year, but the Eagles need a guy. Like I said, they could draft Lane Johnson's replacement with Ian Nature, and we know that they are a lot better at developing offensive linemen than the Niners are. Okay. Then we're looking at Minnesota at pick number 18. They're a team who needs a tackle. So, and let's look at the offensive line rankings, right? I think Max Ianacher could go. He's a better tackle, pure tackle prospect than Caden Proctor. Caden Proctor, a lot of holes in his film. Isn't a true tackle, I don't think, at the next level. Monroe Freeling, again, I think Max Ianacher could go as high as the number 3 tackle in this year's draft, behind Francis Mauigoa and Spencer Fano. So he's better than Caleb Lomu. As a true tackle, I think he's the 3rd best tackle in this draft. So that means, if he could go as high as Minnesota at 18, he could go to Philly at 23. So that's one reason the Niners might not be able to draft Ianacher, because he's might not even be there. But even if they were to, right? I don't think Kyle Shanahan has the balls, because he needs a little bit of coaching up. I think it's way too much of a risk for the Niners at that pick, because yes, there's a very good chance that Max Ianacher hits, but there's also a very good chance that he is a total bust. And that's Kyle Shanahan's job. From the moves we have seen, if he is a total bust, that is Kyle Shanahan's job right there. From the moves we have seen the Niners make this offseason, okay, they have been safe and conservative. They've been signing veterans to the receiving core, signing veterans, Dre Greenlaw, bringing guys back, because I discussed this last show with Grant Cohn. Go check it out. I did that a week ago. The Niners aren't looking to make risks in year 10 of Kyle Shanahan, or year 9, whatever it is, of Kyle Shanahan. They are looking to bring back as many veterans that knows their system and win as many games. They're looking short term right now, because they are, I think, trying to save their jobs a little bit. So Max Ianacher might be the best pick, but first off, the Niners, I don't think, have the confidence to coach him up. And I also just don't think it's a pick where it's not a safe pick at 27. Niners are trying to go safe pick at 27. And frankly, I think so let's say Max Ianacher goes to the Eagles at 23, right? So then it leaves you, if we're trying to get a Trent Williams replacement, don't think Caden Proctor is the answer. Don't think Caleb Lomu is the answer at 27. So then it leaves you with a guy like Blake Miller, who probably will play tackle at the next level. He's a right tackle. He'd also like to transition. I don't like what I see out of him. There is better value at 27 at the defensive end position than there is at the offensive tackle position in this draft. It would be a mistake if the Niners were to go offensive tackle. That would just be out of pure need. There are better players. There are better guys at 27. So here's a guy that I've been kind of falling in love with. And here's an option that I think the Niners, I really liked if they were to go Zion Young, right? I would love that pick. But a guy that I don't even know what to say. A guy that I guess I've really fallen in love with as I've gotten deeper into his tape, gotten deeper into what this guy, like his measurables, how he tested at the combine. Malachi Lawrence is a guy that, yes, some people would kind of see of him. If the Niners were to pick him at 27, they would maybe see this as a reach, but I don't think Malachi Lawrence would be that much of a reach. His testing, his numbers at the combine, athletic freak. He is a 4.52 40, which is 98th percentile among defensive ends. He has a great 10-yard split, something that the Niners look for religiously in defensive ends. He has a great vertical, 40-inch vertical. That's 98th percentile. He has great measurables, 6'4", 253 is a little light, 33 and 5/8 inch arms. So, but if you just look at this guy, we can talk athleticism, combine, testing numbers, but was my scouting report on Malachi Lawrence. Like I said, athleticism was off the charts. He's got great size, I think, for a defensive end. If you watch his tape, he's a better pass rusher and one of the most pure pass rushers in the class. I would almost rank Malachi Lawrence of all the guys in this class. I would rank him the fourth best pure pass rusher, and a guy who I think as a defensive end will translate the best to the NFL, because you've got Reuben Bain, obviously. You've got, Keldrick Folk. But TJ Parker, I like Malachi Lawrence as a pass rusher better than TJ Parker. He has better motor. He's quicker than TJ Parker. On tape, when you see TJ Parker, he gets lazy. He uses his arms to an advantage, but his motor runs hot and cold. He's not a relentless. He just doesn't seek out the quarterback with tenacity. He's a guy that almost you could put at D tackle at the next level, because he doesn't have the quickness and the bend to necessarily be a really effective pass rusher, right? What the Niners are looking for at defensive end at 27, the Niners are looking for a guy who can fill a specific role. And that role is the role of a speed rusher, because he doesn't necessarily, a defensive end at this pick doesn't necessarily need to stop the run, because they've got Michael. On first and second down, you can put Michael Williams at that spot opposite Nick Bosa. You can put CJ West, or the guy that we signed from or traded for from the Cowboys, Osa Odigizua. And then you can put the other guy that we got from Texas last year, really good run defender. So you don't need Malachi Lawrence to be necessarily, you need him to fill a role. That is a third down specialist, right? I like him better than Cassius Howell. Cassius Howell has very short arms. He's not popping out for me. Very short arms, not great speed, almost a defensive tackle at the next level. Same with TJ Parker. R. Mason Thomas, really good pass rusher, great bend, but his measurables are terrible. He's not a guy like, the biggest thing with Malachi. Oh, okay. He has room to put mass on his frame. Like, if you look at him, he's 6'4", like I said, 253. If you look at his measurables at how tall he is, he has room to gain a little bit of weight to where he could become a better run block or run stopper. And so, like I said, they're drafting a guy for a specific role. Malachi Lawrence is legitimately a guy who you could bring in, and he could be a consistent 10-sack guy for you. And that's almost his floor to me. That's just how good he is. Great bend. I would say he's top 3 for how many pass rush moves he has. That's, like I said, TJ Parker, Cassius Howell, they're not defined in their pass rush moves necessarily. He's very, very, very refined in the moves he does, the bend, the speed. It's all there. And so him, Zion Young, if Akeem Mesidor falls to the Niners at 27, I would love Akeem Mesidor over Malachi Lawrence. I think he had better production in college than Malachi Lawrence, obviously. But the thing is Akeem Mesidor could go as early as 12 to the Cowboys. So there's not a good chance that he stays there at 27. But again, pure pass rusher, he's a guy who I compare to Hassan Reddick or Khalil Mack. Guys that are just bona fide. They're going to get you 10, 11 sacks per year. genuinely. And so, and I would sign me up for that in the first round. Like if they can get a guy who's perennially a 10 sack guy, a speed rusher off the edge, that's what they need. Sign me up, Malachi Lawrence. So because what he has over guys like R. Mason Thomas, Zion Young, R. Mason Thomas, he has way better measurables. He can become, Malachi Lawrence can become a good run stopper or a serviceable run stopper because his frame just screams, okay, you need to fill out a little bit more. So I like him over, R. Mason Thomas. Zion Young, he has way better bend, way better motor than Zion Young, but they're both good picks. So that's where I think the Niners go in round one is defensive end. Now let's get to, and that's kind of just, that was 5 minutes of me just really talking about how much I love Malachi Lawrence coming out. Because I don't think he's going to make it to that second round pick. I really don't. All right. So the 49ers hosted KC Concepcion, Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper in their latest top 30 visits. I could pull up the guys that the Niners hosted. I'm going to do everything off of my phone today. I could pull up everyone the Niners hosted on their top 30 visit. Well, they also hosted Romello Height, who's like a defensive end who's going to go in the second round. And so that was another interesting one. But guys that the Niners have hosted, and they met with a lot of guys at the combine, and one of them was Hakeem Mesidor. It definitely screams like it's not the end-all be-all. If the Niners meet with somebody, they're interested in them. But like, if you go back to the year of Ricky Pearsall, when he was asked, did you think the Niners were going to draft you? He said, I didn't even meet with them before the draft. So the Niners meeting with a player isn't necessarily meaning that, okay, they're going to do whatever it takes to draft this guy. That's why I don't put too much stock into it. But let's get to kind of what my thoughts were on that. I think there are more there. Like I said, I go back to value with the tackle position that I went over in the last topic. I think there are more pressing needs at 27, but also just better value. I think the value at defensive end, if this were any other year, if this class weren't so stacked, Malachi Lawrence would be a first round pick. Like that's just how good this defensive end class and just defensive line class, front seven class is in general. But, initially, before the Niners signed Christian Kirk, I would have said, yes, just go get another receiver. But if the Niners draft another receiver in the first round, what does this say about Ricky Pearsall? Now, one thing, how I see this possible, how I see them potentially getting one of these guys is if they trade down 6 or 7 spots into the early second round and get some nice draft capital. I think one of these guys, KC Concepcion, Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper, one of these guys will be there in the early second round. And so that's where I'd say, okay, that's okay. If the Niners can trade down, get some more draft capital so they can plug other needs in the draft, and then the rich get richer, they get really good at the receiver position and draft another one. So I think it's unlikely, but I could see a scenario, like I said, them trading down and getting a receiver early in the second round. But at this point, I think just the value is there at defensive end. Okay, so guys the 49ers could take in round 4. So I want to kind of tie this into a mock draft that I am doing. So let's try to, hopefully my computer doesn't completely crash on us, but just give me a second here. Let me look up 49ers. Actually, let's do mock draft simulator 2026. Now, keep in mind, guys, I'm going to go off of Pro Football Network. Now, I don't love this one because I like PFF a lot better than Pro Football Network just because I feel like there are times when like you'll see a guy, oh, he's here in the 4th round, but it's like this guy's going to go for sure second round. It's just not the most accurate. Let's see here. Share screen. Nope. Hold on. Which button is that? Okay, cool. All right. So let's just say the Niners stay at number 27. Now, what is going on? Oh my gosh, this is annoying as heck. Why is it not letting me? What is going on with this shit? I am not sure what is going on. My computer is being so annoying. Let me leave the stream really quickly. All right, so we're back. Let's try to share screen. Not sure what's going on here. All right, well, let's just. We might not do a mock draft today. That is really unfortunate. We might not do a mock draft today. All right, so I guess we can just break down who. So I had a bunch of guys in the 4th round that the Niners could get. So Fabechi Nwewu, I want to go to him first. He's a guard out of Oklahoma. Let me pull up my scouting report of him off of my phone. So he's just one of the best run. Now, this is a guy who I want them to trade. I would say he's maybe going to be their first pick in the 4th round, but he might be a 3rd round pick. It's hard to know, but he's one of the best pass blocking guards in this draft. And what kind of stands out to him is he allowed just 2 pressures on 374 pass blocking snaps during a dominant midseason stretch. And he even slid to center for the final 2 games of the regular season, picking up the new position on the fly. So this is a guy who, Nwewu, this is a guy who the Niners, if they could get him in the 4th round, this would be a huge, huge, huge win. If they could get him in the 4th round, this is a guy that they could start at left guard and move to center, kick Jake Brendel out after next year, move him to center, and away with. I mean, he's a super strong guy. He ran an okay 40, but he has a great wingspan, 82 and 6/8 inch wingspan, which is 96th percentile. He has a pretty good shuttle time, 4.73 seconds, which is 60th percentile. But kind of his strengths, deploys a quick arm 1 jab that keeps rushers out of his chest and maximizes 30 and 3/4 inch arms to full effect. He's super powerful. Flat out walls off bull rushers with a wide rooted base that absorbs power and gives almost nothing back to the pass rusher. This is Nwewu. So that's a guy in the 4th round. You can draft him at guard and potentially move him to center. The next guy, now guys, bear with me here. I don't have the mock draft up because whatever is going on with my computer, I don't know. Connor Liu was another guy, center out of Auburn. He's a guy that, like, if we're talking draft strategies here, I would love the Niners to trade down in the 2nd round and pick up a 5th round pick, pick up a 6th round pick, because like Connor Liu was one of the best rated centers in this year's draft, but he's not going to go probably number 1 at center because he was injured week 7 of the college football season. And so he's going to be like a 5th round guy that his anchor isn't great, but he's great in zone run blocking or a zone scheme. He would be great in Kyle Shanahan's system. Really mobile, great at getting to the second level. So I love Connor Liu. I just wish I had the mock draft pulled up and it would work. But Zane Durant. So if we're going, so those are kind of centers, interior offensive linemen. Guys that we could move to the interior are Trey Zune, which is the left tackle out of Texas A&M. A little bit about him is he ran a great 40, 5.10, 40, 81st percentile, but he's got 32.5-inch arms. He's not a tackle at the next level. He's a guy who you could get in the 6th round, Trey Zune, where you put him at guard, maybe you let him compete. The bottom line is the Niners are going into this or going into the draft. If we're looking at their depth chart, again, I really wish I had this pulled up on my computer, but it is being insanely annoying. But if we're looking at their depth chart, the Niners only at this point have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have like 8 guys currently that like I could feel comfortable going into camp with. The Niners need to get like a couple offensive linemen in this draft. And so Trey Zune is a guy, 6th round, could move to guard, and he was, impressive straight line speed for a big man. He's a really good in pass protection. High ceiling developmental player. And he would fit the Niners scheme. Very good run blocker, very good in zone run blocking. So that's a guy. And then let's get to the next guy. Emil Wagner I've been looking at him for a while. He's from Notre Dame. He's 4th, 5th round. Now, like I said, if we can get the mock draft, I'll probably just do another stream doing a mock draft, maybe tomorrow or whatever, because I really wanted to do a mock draft. But here's how I think the Niners go. I think they go edge rusher in the 1st round. I think in the 2nd round, they trade down for, let's get to this guy first, because he is one of my favorite players, and I've been looking him up a little bit. Let's see here. Because this is a guy that I want the 49ers to trade down in round 2 and get this guy in like early to mid round 3. Ted Hurst, wide receiver, Georgia State. Now, this guy had, first off, great measurables, 6'4". He's got 6'4", 206. He's got a 79 1/8 wingspan. That's 81st percentile. He ran a 4.42 at the combine. He's got a great 10-yard split. 61st percentile, 1.55. Super athletic. But he gets off the line really fast. He's great in like reading the zone, reading the soft spot in a zone, which is essential in a Niners system. Read zone leverage, like I said, sits in windows, a red zone target. He's got great length, really good body control, low body explosiveness. Very one thing I don't like about like Chris Brazzell out of Tennessee is I don't think he drops his hips enough. I don't think he has enough of a route tree. If you're in Kyle Shanahan's system, you're not just running the go ball, which is what you see Chris Brazzell and guys like Malachi Fields run a lot in this draft. You want a guy who has a little bit more hip fluidity, has great experience in zone coverage. You can throw it to him on a 8-yard slant and he can potentially take it to the house. That's him. Again, NFL Draft Buzz says as a senior, Hurst crossed the 1,000 receiving yards for the first time with 71 catches for 1,004 yards. He's a guy who had great production in a small conference. Good players are good players. He didn't play in a big conference, but he had great production. And he could have transferred out of Georgia State, but he chose to stay there, which is rare in this NIL age. So, the one gripe about him is his drop rate. That's obviously God. But again, if you're drafting, here's the thing. I think the Niners are going to go wide receiver high. I don't want them to go in the first round, but if they can trade down, get like some type of pick, so they can get a little bit more, because they've only got 6 picks right now. So trade down, get some type of pick for it, and then you can justify drafting a receiver in the 3rd round. Let's see. This is one weakness that they have. Release package is too reliant on footwork, lacks counter move against press. A lot of teams play zone, and if your footwork is really your weakness as a wide receiver, I would love taking a chance on that. Let's see. What else do they expect him to push for the number 3 wide receiver role as a rookie in the right system with 3rd down and red zone reps for week 1, given his ball tracking, catch radius, and understanding of leverage. This is a perfect Jawan Jennings replacement, a Z receiver. And then the reason why I really heard of this guy was Greg Cosell on Ross Tucker podcast brought him up and was saying, this is my 3rd best wide receiver in the draft. He legit could develop into something. Before I get to the next guy, CJ Ruthless says, what's up? Check out Fernando Carmona Jr. Okay. Dante Corleone, defensive tackle in the 4th round. I was going to mention some defensive tackles, but I wanted to get to Ted Hurst because I want to do a mock draft, but my shared screen is terrible right now. My computer is really, really acting up. And so I wanted to kind of take you guys through my thought process, but I think it's, like I said, it's defensive end in the 1st round. I want them to trade out of that 2nd round pick into the 3rd round, pick up somebody like Ted Hurst, a receiver, because I'm looking at that end of the 2nd round and I'm looking at the offensive lineman and I don't love the value there. Like, you could take a guy potentially, the guard out of Georgia Tech, but he doesn't really fit the Niners system. His name is, I forget. I mean, there's so many names that, like, I'll look at this guy and I'll be like, Keelan Rutledge. There we go. I mean, he has really good pass protection for his size, elite movement, can probably play left guard. But, like, here's the thing. If we're going, but I just watched Georgia Tech and I'm like, he doesn't really fit what I think the Niners would want. A guard that I've been banging the table for is, I mean, I've already said this in multiple shows past, is Bo Stevens, the guard from Iowa. They had the best offensive line in football this year. He's probably going to be there at the 4th round. He was the highest graded PFF guard in power conferences this year. Like I said, their O-line won the Joe Moore Award. The unit had 5 200-plus rushing yards per game. He's a bit limited in his athleticism, but he runs. I mean, the Niners love guards out of Iowa. They've drafted multiple. He runs the same scheme as the Niners. So Bo Stevens is another guy that I've banged the table for. Josh Cameron, I interviewed him. He should be in the 4th round. Good physical receiver. Josh Cuevas. I haven't gotten into tight end yet. Again, we're flying by the seat of our pants because I would really like to visualize a draft board right now. But Deion Burks can replace Sky Moore, should be there in the 4th round. Yep. Jacoby Lane. I haven't necessarily gotten into him yet. I want the Niners. So let's get back to some of the guys in the 4th round. So Emil Wagner, left tackle or right tackle out of Notre Dame. He's a guy who you would he'd have to add some weight. He's 306, 6'7". Shoot, I just deleted his draft profile. Again, I don't have everyone pulled up here. I could probably, let me look through my notes here. Emil Wagner, because I had him. Yeah, he's 6'6", 306, so he'd have to add some weight, but he's a guy who, like, legitimately, he's got great measurables, 34.5-inch arms, And the biggest thing with me is he ran a 5.01.40, which is the 91st percentile. He had a great 10-yard split. His broad jump, his vertical was really good. So he's lacking a bit in strength. You'd have to put some more weight on his frame, but he's a guy who athletically, you watch him play, put him in the Niners system, let him transition to left tackle. He's a developmental guy. Here's the thing where I think the Niners, I already touched on this earlier on this in the show, but I don't think they get rid of Trent Williams this year. It's too much of a risk in the first round, a risk that they are not willing to take at this point in Kyle Shanahan's career. So there are flyers in the 4th round that I think the Niners, or 5th round, that they could take. But yeah, let's go to, so I already said Fabechi Nwowu from the guard from Oklahoma, who could potentially transfer into center. Damon Claiborne. Let me pull up my notes for him. He's a running back. So obviously the Niners are going to give Jordan James a chance. It's looking more apparent. They lost Brian Robinson, but let me look up Damon Claiborne. I had that profile on my computer, but I had to shut it all down. Damon Claiborne. He's, I would say, running back out of Wake Forest. Here's what NFL Draft Buzz says. He's got great speed, and you watch him play, he's got great speed. Combine 4.37 at the combine. He's combined confirmed top end speed, fluid change of direction, reads zone blocking schemes well. Contact balance is really good. Breakaway ability stands out on film, with nearly a quarter of his 2025 carries going for 10 plus yards. Subtle hip fakes and shoulder dips listed under 190. The weaknesses are listed under 190 pounds, and it shows when his defenders square him up in the hole. 5 fumbles in 2025. Pass protection is not close to NFL ready. Again, he's a guy, he's graded out 4th, 5th round, probably the 5th round, maybe end of the 4th. But you don't necessarily need him. Like, he's super quick. He reminds me of a Jermichael Hasty type running back. Really explosive, but needs to add a little bit of weight, but could be a really complimentary back. So he's a running back that the Niners could get in the 5th round. I also really like Katron Allen out of Penn State. He's slightly bigger and is more of a Jordan James type back. I think the Niners try to go speed again if they go running back in the 4th round. So that's a running back that they could go. Now, they met with safety. So this is going to be all over the place because, again, I lost a lot of my notes while restarting my computer. But if you look at the Niners depth chart, they need to draft a running back. But if you look at the Niners depth chart, they also need to go into camp. So currently, let's talk defensive line now. So let's do banners. Yeah. So if you're talking defensive line, so that's running back. Like I said, receiver, I think they go 2nd round there. There's a couple offensive linemen that I'll probably cover in a later live show. But if you're going defensive line, currently on the roster, they have, you obviously have Michael Williams, Alfred Collin, Osa Odighizuwe, Nick Bosa, Keon White, Sebastian Valdez, CJ West, Sam Okwanu. But they really only have about 10 guys that they could bring into camp. Evan Anderson, William Bradley King. So they have about 10 guys currently on the roster. The Niners like to go into the year with about 12 or 13 defensive tackles into training camp. So the Niners need to get a defensive tackle or defense. Again, I think they're going to draft a defensive end, but I think they draft a defensive tackle later on in the 4th round. A guy that I really like is Zane Durant. He is a little bit smaller, but he's like the Osa Odigizue kind of mold. He could very good interior pass rusher. Tim Keenan is another guy, defensive tackle out of Alabama. Zane Durant was a defensive tackle out of Penn State. Tim Keenan is a defensive tackle out of Alabama. Very good against the run. Doesn't have great measurables, but, can take on double teams, is like a true nose tackle. So those are two guys. Those are two defensive tackles, 4th or 5th round. How deep do the 49ers get? Like, I think they're going to keep a lot of their 4th round picks. They're going to trade down maybe once and get potentially, a 5th or 6th round, maybe 7th round pick. But I don't know if they want maybe a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick, because having 4 picks in the 4th round, you can just pick who you want out of the day 3 guys. So Tim Keenan, Zane Durant, really like those guys. And then another guy that they met with, Michael Taft, the safety out of Texas. He's a little bit light, but one of his main things when you see him on film, on tape, and his scouting report, really good in coverage, is really good at playing in the box on a zone, like a zone 3 coverages. So he kind of fits that. Like, I've been asking myself, do they replace Jair Brown? Michael Taft, Jair Brown, again, box safety in 3-man zone or 3 zone. In those type of schemes, he's a box safety. When they go to 3-man zone, they like to play a lot of zone, which means, you're dropping Jair Brown into the box. Michael Taft kind of plays, but he's better in coverage than I think Jair Brown is. And he's a really willing run stopper and really good run stopper, filling the gaps, really great instincts. So Michael Taft is a guy that the Niners could probably get in the 4th round as well at safety. Let's see here. Do I have Demetrius Crownover again? I would love to just click to a tab. If we're going more offensive tackles, let's look at Demetrius Crownover, Texas A&M. Out of Texas A&M NFL draft. He's a guy, great arms, 35 3/8 inch arms, 81st percentile. He's got a 5.14 40, a great 40. He's a tackle. Now, right tackle. So rare combination of height, length, and mass. It's 6'7", 336 pounds, runs fast, which is genuinely impressive. Athleticism for a man that's big and confirms his movement skills, translate beyond the practice field. He had a background as a tight end. Allowed 0 sacks in 2024 and just 19 total pressures. So Demetrius Crownover, one of the more developmental, we're talking Emil Wagner, right tackle out of Notre Dame. Here's another tackle that the Niners could get in the 4th or 5th round. That's, the traits are off the charts. Because his tools are just legitimately rare. So he's, but gap heavy run scheme. He fits a gap heavy run scheme. So I don't know if he would be a fit for them as well. All right. Well, I'm going to end this early. I really wanted to get to a mock draft. I really wanted to get more guys on my notes, but I'm going to end this slightly early and probably just do another live doing a mock draft and breaking down a couple more of these players, because I had a lot more guys that I had looked at and really studied. Okay. So let's go secondary really quickly. I want to cover secondary. Because I think we were talking about Michael Taft at safety, but I think the Niners also could use another cornerback. If you look at their depth chart, let's go back to their depth chart. They currently have 1, 2, 4, like 6 guys, unless you trust Derek Canteen going into camp. They have 6 guys in their secondary. They could draft another guy. And you talk about somebody that in Raheem Morris who just loves long cornerbacks. Julian Neal, cornerback out of Arkansas. Let me pull up his scouting report. Great height. And I mean, he's actually a guy who I watched quite a bit of film on the last couple of days. 6'2", 203. Great arm length, 32 and 3/4 inch arm length. So 92nd percentile in his weight, 87th percentile in his height. He's got 92 percentile in his height, 87th percentile in his weight. He's got 80th percentile in how long his arms are. But he's a guy who likes to get really, really physical with receivers at the line of scrimmage. He played a lot of press man to man, like right up on the wide receiver. Likes to get really physical with the wide receiver. The only problem is he's a little bit slow. I don't know if he has the straight line speed to be a cornerback at the next level. But here's the thing with me. I could see him, Julian Neal, cornerback out of Arkansas. I could see him maybe give him maybe a year, transitioning to the Jimmy Ward role, which is that box safety. So you've got Malik Mustafa, and then if Siegel and what's his name and Jair Brown don't work out for you, maybe you transition him to safety. He's got great measurables as a cornerback, but he's a bit slow, but that's perfect for covering, tight ends or just being a gadget guy on the defense. The Niners are looking for a new Jimmy Ward. This is a guy. So don't you forget it. Julian Neal out of Arkansas. A little bit about him. Neal's best football is going to come in a defense that plays a lot of zone. So that's great. His zone coverage marks are noticeably stronger than his man numbers. Like I said, he lines up one-on-one versus receivers, gets really physical, but he's really, really good in zone coverage. When the field is divided and he can read the quarterback's eyes within his landmark, and the Niners do this a lot. They do a lot of zone. So his length and instincts show up. He sits in windows, drives on throws, and trusts his arms to close the deal at the catch point. I would like to see what was his production at the college level. Senior year, he posted 55 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 10 pass breakups. Yeah, I mean, he had a decent amount of interceptions, but again, so in man assignments, the average recovery speed becomes a problem against quicker receivers who can stack him vertically. That gap in his coverage profile needs to be accounted for at the next level. So again, like I said, I think he would be a great box safety who can potentially, like a Jimmy Ward role, a gadget player who can potentially, cover linebackers or it could develop into a great zone corner. What makes Neal different from most corners in the class is his run support. So here's another reason why I love Julian Neal is the Niners ask every single corner that they get to be great in run support, to be one of the best run defenders in the class. And he was rated as the second best run defender in the class. Tackles with physicality, and his missed tackle rate dropped significantly from Fresno State days. He played at Fresno State to his Arkansas tape. So again, combined with his willingness to play in the box and on the line in sub packages, he has early down and short yardage value from day one. The realistic outlook is a rotational piece and a special teams contributor earlier in his career with the ceiling of a quality starter if the press technique and hip fluidity come along. He needs a coaching staff willing to invest in his development at the line of scrimmage. The physical tools and run game toughness give him a floor, and the zone coverage ability keeps him on the field. This is a guy that the Niners would love. High floor. Now, he might be a third-round pick. He's projected in the third round, but if he can drop in the fourth round, Julian Neal is another cornerback that I would love. And the Niners need to draft one. So fourth round, I could see him going running back. I could see him going cornerback, defensive tackle. There could be a number of ways. Right tackle, guard. But yeah, I'm going to end the stream early here. I really want to do a mock draft. I really want to break down some more of these guys, but unfortunately, that just was not possible today. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you in the next one. Hold on. Febechi Nuewu, I'm hoping he's available 4th round. He can play guard or center. Yeah, he's draft crush of mine. So I'll be back, guys. Have a good night.